Okay, the next topic we're going to discuss is the average rate of change. This is from your packet, but the skill is to calculate and interpret the average rate of change of a function presented symbolically or as a table over a specified interval. Estimate the rate of change from a graph. So that's what we are going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at graphs to see if we can determine what the average rate of change is. We're going to be looking at a table maybe to see if we can determine that. And really and truly, the only thing that the average rate of change is like your slope, basically. It's the slope of the function. Between those specified intervals. So you will look for those intervals, and then you're just going to take the change in the y's over the change in your x's. Isn't that what our slope formula is? Yes, indeed. So we're going to look at this graph where we have x squared minus 1. You can either put this in your calculator and graph it and then look at it, or you can look at your table of values. And I probably will do a table of values. And I know that when I look at this, you can graph it. I'm just going to plug in. So when x is -1, what do I get out for y? And when x is 0, what am I going to get out for y? So if I plug in -1 and square it, minus 1, I get 1 minus 1, which gives me a y value of 0. When I plug in 0, 0 squared minus 1 gives me -1. So there's my y values, there's my x values. So to determine my average rate of change, I will take my y values, 0 minus -1 over, if I started here, I have to start here, -1 minus 0. The change, that actually means, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's what we're doing here, and we end up with 1 over -1. So my average rate of change is -1. All right, for this one, let's graph it and look at your table of values. And we're looking for this interval right here. So when my x is -2, what is my y? You should see that your y is -40. Then let's plug in my output when I input an x of 1. You should see that it is an output of -40. Well, what happens when you take -40 minus -40 over -2 minus 1? What happens here? -40 plus 40, well, then I know I have a 0 rate of change between those 2 points. It's a quadratic, so I know that my graph is doing something like this, and it wants to know between -2 and 1, there is no change, because I guess it should be like that. Okay, then you will have some where they will It'll be graphs. What's your rate of change? You can look here and see we want to go from -2 to 0. How is my graph changing? I'm going to take my y's. Does it matter which one I start with? This one or this one? No, it doesn't. So I can take 4 minus -6 over, what are my x values? -2 minus 0. And that's going to give me 10 over -2, which is -5. And does that make sense? Yes, because it's decreasing here. So it has an average rate of change of -5. Then you're going to see several problems like this. Some more intricate, some very simple. Here's a graph. It looks like a cubic graph. It models the number of tricks that a dog can perform based on the number of hours it is trained. Estimate how long it takes the dog to learn 8 tricks. Where is this information located in the graph? Okay, I want you to pause right here because I don't want you to just answer this question. I want you to analyze this graph. That's what we're doing now, is analyzing polynomial functions. So here it says time spent training the dog, number of tricks learned. I'm hoping that you see something, unusual or something not pertinent or something obscure about this graph. And I'm just going to give you a few seconds to look at that. What I hope you see is that, it's a graph, just like we plug all kinds of data in and we get out functions and then we just interpret. Well, this is hours it takes to train a dog. Would we ever have negative hours? No, we wouldn't. Then why do we have information on our graph over here? The reason being, I don't know if you ever remember doing regression, and we will do that shortly. When you do an experiment, you would obviously get out this data. Maybe 0 time spent with the dog, 0 tricks are learned. 3 hours spent with the dog. Is he learning any more tricks? No, it looks like he starts to go down. But you are going to actually experiment, come up with data points that you would put into your calculator, and then it would spit out an equation for you, because then it's going to model things, because we might not know what happens at 550 hours because we didn't spend that much time on it. But with this data, it kind of gives us a good regression model of what we might have as an output. So it has to go back this way because that's what our graphs do. But this is erroneous, irrelevant information over here. But it's still going to be on our graph. So we have to learn how to interpret what's logical. All right, estimate how long it takes the dog to learn 8 tricks. Well, what are you looking for? You are looking for 8 tricks. Well, 8 tricks is here, right? So how long does it take the dog to learn 8 tricks? Well, it looks like he could learn it at an hour, and then what? At maybe 2.5 hours? So how long would we say it would take him to learn 8 tricks? 1 hour? Do we need to do anything with this? Just wants us to locate this information on the graph. This Number 32, it models the amount of money a company makes producing floral displays. So here's the number of displays made, and here is the profit. What is the maximum number of floral displays that the company can create and continue to increase their profit? Okay, so we need to look at this. They would never make negative floral displays, obviously. So we're starting here. Now this is interesting. Remember with this problem, we were like, oh, at 0 hours, the dog has learned 0 tricks. So we go through there, but what happens here? We don't have this going through 0, 0. It looks like maybe we're down here at -10. Do you know what that would mean? Where's the starting point for this company? Starting point is always going to be here where the initial time takes place. And we are down here at -10, and that reason might be because you've not made any money, but maybe you've invested, I don't know if this is in just dollars, you invested $10 before you ever started. So you're in the hole when you're starting this business. Then what happens? You continue down because you're still losing money until you can get your client base built up. And then what happens? Then we start increasing, and we're making a profit. And then what happens when we make 6 floral displays? Is that their maximum? It is. So what does that mean? It means that after that point, they start losing money. So when it asks, where is this information located? It's right there. How do you interpret that? The maximum number that we would make would be 6, because that would give us, for 6 displays, we would make $26. After that, we would start decreasing. Okay,